How do you install TOSOT's mini split with the ERV? Today I'm showing you how to install this first ever that I've seen mini split with a two-way ventilation system. We're gonna do a full install today, step by step. You're gonna learn how to install this mini split and ERV, and I'm gonna give you a discount so you can get 20% off. You're watching Taddy Digest. This is HVAC tips for technicians / homeowners. I'm Tad, let's get started. Here's where we're gonna mount our outdoor unit. You can see it's mounted on a pad. There are minimum distances that you need to be aware of. Check out your manual. I like to keep, at least 8, 10, 12 inches away from the wall. That way I have plenty of room to draw air in the coil. You can see I've already got a 60 amp non-fuse disconnect on the wall and some Schedule 80 conduit because this is outside. My pad dimensions are 18 inches wide by 38 inches long, and it's 3 inches in depth. Now, my indoor unit is gonna go on the other side of the wall. I like it when I can have my line sets come out, go straight down, as well as drain, and then go to my outdoor unit. And my connections for the copper are down here. Electrical connections are up here. Now let me show you where my indoor unit is gonna be. And I wanna mention that when I drill my hole for my line sets, I want them to be in between the ridges. I don't want to come out right here on a ridge because it's going to be hard to seal it up, and it's going to be hard to mount my line hide cover because I like to make my jobs look professional and cover up my line sets. We're going to mount our indoor unit right here, and you can see there used to be a hole right here in a sleeve, and that's where the PTAC was. We took out the PTAC, which is package terminal air conditioning unit, and I also took out the plug. So what I did was I ran conduit from this box outside and down to a disconnect. And I've got this cover plate here just to cover it up to make it look more professional. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take out the Phillips screw that holds this mounting plate to the actual wall mount air handler. Then we're gonna take this out. And you can take and measure over from this leg to center of the line sets, and that'll be where you're gonna use your hole saw and you're gonna drill. So we're gonna take this, we're gonna put it up here, we're gonna mount it to the wall. When we mount it, we want to make sure that it's level or it's pitched towards where our drain is. Now, what we're gonna do before we mount our unit is we're gonna move this drain tube from this end to this end because I'm gonna have my drain and my line sets all go out together. Before I move the drain, I'm gonna take the line sets and I'm gonna bend them. It's okay to bend these lines. There's a spring right here that keeps the lines from actually kinking. We're dealing with 1/4 inch and 3/8. 1/4 inch liquid line and a 3/8 gas line. Now, we wanna move the drain right here. So what do we have to do? Well, we gotta take out this plug, super simple. Then we're gonna come over here with our screwdriver, and there's a metal piece right here, and we're gonna basically take that metal piece and we're gonna push it this way, and then we'll be able to pull this drain tube off. Then we're gonna take this drain tube and we're gonna place it over here on this side of the drain pan, and then it's just gonna lock it in place. All right, now I'm gonna take this plug here, make sure you get it all the way in there, and there it is. Now we can install that bracket. Mounting plate is on the wall. We used 5 of these 1.5 inch deck screws. I like these. We used our torpedo level, put it right here centered, and it's either level, which is great, or we have it angled towards the side that we have the drain on. Now, to make sure that we drill our hole in the right location, 2 things you can do. One is you can use a tape measure. You can put your bracket on your wall mount and measure over from the center over to where your line sets are, which for us, it's about 7 inches. So you can take your tape measure, measure over, and then mark it 7 inches. Or another simple method is you can take your wall mount, you can put it up on the bracket. If you don't know how to put it up on the bracket or where it's supposed to go, there's 2 arrows. And these arrows will line up with those 2 feet, okay? So use your arrows. Now, once we've got our wall mount in place, give it a good look. Maybe take your level, put it back on your unit. Now we can take and lift it up a little bit, and then we can mark not only the bottom, and that is, we don't need to go below that mark, and we can mark the side. Oh, we don't need to go any further than that. But really what I like to do is I like to mark where I'm going to make that penetration with my hole saw. And that is a very easy method. Now, let me go ahead and drill with the hole saw. We're going to use 3-inch hole saw, and I'm going to use my regular drill here. 2.5-inch hole is minimum. That way you have good room for running that cable and your line sets in your drain. I like to use 3-inch, so I have plenty of room. So I'm going to go ahead and make this hole. After using the 3-inch hole saw and drilling a hole through the wall, we can't reach the other side because it's about 1 foot. So I'm using a spotter bit, and I'm making sure that I go down at an angle whenever I do this hole, just to make sure that we have plenty of fall for our drain. So now I'm going to use my spotter bit. Now I'll go on the other side and I'll use my hole saw. You don't have a spotter bit, but you've got a long extension, maybe a 5/16 or a 1/4 inch. Take a self-tap screw and then take it and go through the hole. And drill a hole where you're going to have to use your hole saw on the other side of the wall. Here's where our screw hole was, right through the wall. And we're going to take our hole saw and we're going to go ahead and make our hole. We got our hole. Now we're ready to route our line sets through that hole. And in the package with the line sets, you've got a sleeve. What does a sleeve do? A sleeve goes right here, and it basically is protection from any sharp edges, especially if this is metal. Maybe it's brick. You want to keep the brick or the metal from tearing through the line sets and the wire. I usually use PVC for a sleeve, but you can use this sleeve. It does come with the equipment. Now, before we do anything else, before we take that wall mount air handler and we place it on the bracket, we're going to take the power cable that goes from the indoor wall mount air handler to the outdoor unit, and we're going to route it through this hole and the other hole. And then I'm going to show you what we're doing next. Next, we're going to take the front cover off. So we're going to push it on up and then pull this piece here as much to the left as we can. It should slip out. This piece here, you may have to turn it to the side. Push this so we can get this piece out here. Now we're going to take this board off. This looks like our Wi-Fi board. This looks like our receiver. So we're going to take this off next. This is going to make our next step very easy. Next step, we're going to take off our cover for our electrical connections. Now we're almost ready to mount this wall mount air handler on the wall, connect it to the bracket. But first, to make our job easier, we're going to take and run this wire through the hole that's in the back. There's like a 1/2 inch knockout right there. And we're just going to run our wire, that's our power cable for the indoor unit. We're going to route it through and into this section. That way we can screw all of these connectors onto our terminals labeled 1, 2, and 3 and ground. Now I've connected the power cable, and you can see it's not labeled, right? It's just blue, black, brown. There's a sleeve. Pay attention to that color coding. Look up at the top and you'll see the color should be the same. And if you match them inside and outside, you won't have an issue. But it is polarity sensitive. So don't put the blue wire on 1 inside and then put the blue wire on 3 outside. Do not do that. Now, we bend our line sets back out. We take and we tape or zip tie or just tie these together somehow so it's easier to route through the hole. Get somebody to help you. Maybe they can pull that wire. All right, we're coming in. Beautiful. All right, let me get up on the ladder here and put it on the bracket. All right, now it's on the bracket. Now let's go outside and take a look at the line sets. From the interior wall to the exterior of the building, it's about 13 inches. And from our unit to the larger lines connector, it's about 15 inches, but the smaller one, it's about 13 inches. So I need to take the unit back off. I need to route some of the line set inside, and then I need to go ahead and connect the two connectors and then bring it back in. Now, one thing you definitely need to do in this situation where you're gonna have a connector that you can't get to is, one, make an access for that connector, or two, make sure you use a digital torque wrench so that you have the connectors tightened to spec so that you don't have leaks. So you're minimizing leaks, because that is the #1 issue you find in the field with mini splits is improper installation. So I'm gonna take the unit back off. I'm gonna go ahead and run my line sets through the wall a little bit and connect it on the other side of the wall. Now we're gonna proceed to connect our liquid and our gas pipe to our indoor connections. The sweetest sound is when you're removing the caps and you hear that air. That's nitrogen. That's the inert gas that comes shipped inside the coil. And this is an indication that we don't have a leak. And that's good, because you don't want to have a leak on a brand new unit. Remove the caps, and then these were inside the flare connections. That is very cool. I like that, because that preserves these connections. Now, if you look at these flares look great. Super impressive, not too thin, not cracked. I love that. You want to take your user manual and you want to find your torque table. I'm going to be using foot-pounds, and I've got 1/4 inch for my smaller flare connection and 3/8 for my larger. So 1/4 inch, we're going to do in between 12 to 14 foot-pounds. 3/8, 23 to 29. All right, we got them hand tight. Now we're going to use our digital torque wrench. And as we tighten, we're going to get to where it says 23. See that? 23, 24, 25. That right there is tight. Now we're going to take and tighten our smaller flare connection, 12 to 14. And that's 13. Wall mount air handler is in place. If you have an extra hand during the installation process, it makes things so much easier, because you have somebody pulling that wire outside while you're feeding those line sets through the wall. Line sets are out. Drain pipe is connected. Now, I didn't use the plastic drain pipe that comes with it. I really don't like using this. I like 3/4 PVC. I've always used it. What I did was I just tape it to the end, stick the end of the drain tube inside, and then tape it. You can see I've got the cable, the drain, and the line sets all wire tied together. It's in between the ridges of the metal like I wanted it. And then down here, since it was going to be less than 10 foot, I just looped the line sets, and then I've got my flare connectors tightened. I use the same specs in the manual for torquing those. You want to make sure you have a digital torque wrench. As far as the cable, I've got it ran through this knockout. I'm using a 1/2 inch connector, and then I've got another 1/2 inch knockout for my power wire. This is my power cable for the indoor to outdoor. 1, 2, 3, same color, making sure that everything matches indoor and outdoor, and then I got my ground. Now that we've got our 1/4 inch to 5/16 adapter connected to our service access port, we're going to take and connect our hose here. I'm using my red hose, and then I'm going to go ahead and open up my regulator. I've got my nitrogen tank opened up, and we're going to put some pressure on these line sets to pressure test. I like to put at least 350. I mean, honestly, I like to put 500, 600 pounds. I usually never go over 600. Usually it's right around 590, 600. See, right now I've got 350. And then what I do is I go over here with my soap bubbles and I soap test my connections. And I'm looking for bubbles. Looks like right now we've got 460 PSI. If I don't see any bubbles, I will let this sit with 400 PSI or 500 PSI of nitrogen for 30 minutes or 10 minutes and see if the pressure goes down. If it doesn't go down, that's an indication we don't have a leak. If it does go down, we start to lose pressure, I know it's leaking somewhere. And if you have line sets and your connections are in the wall, then you got a problem if you got, you're losing pressure. So after we pressure test, then we vacuum. Vacuum pump is running, we're pulling a vacuum. Once we finish, I'll use the Allen tool, I'll take the caps off, and we will open these valves. In the meantime, while it's pulling a vacuum, I'm gonna go ahead and finish my electrical. When you order this mini split, they send you the power cable that connects the indoor and outdoor unit, but they also send you the power cable for the outdoor unit, for L, for neutral, for ground. This is 12-2 wire. That's what's good for 20 amps. I'm not gonna be using this. You need to check with your local codes, your authority having jurisdiction. Make sure you can use that wire if you're on a project where you have to pull a permit. They sent some extra insulation, so that's nice. They sent this right here, which is some tape that you can wrap around your line sets, your cable, just to keep everything together. That's nice. And then also, they sent this fitting. This fitting goes on the bottom of the outdoor unit. During the winter, using the heat mode, you're going to accumulate frost on that outdoor coil. And that frost is going to be thawed, and it's going to turn into water because you're going into a defrost mode sometimes. So you can put this on the bottom of the outdoor unit in the hole that's on the bottom of the outdoor unit, and you can actually run a drain pipe from this connection out to somewhere where you want that water to drain during the winter. Keeping your outdoor unit as high as possible is good, especially if you live in a northern, very cold climate. I'm in a mild climate. We're in Tennessee, so we maybe have snow for a week or two, and it's maybe 3 or 4 inches. So I'm not going to be installing this, but I wanted you to know why. Finished with the vacuum pump. We're going to open the valves. I'm almost finished with the electrical. I've got to clamp this 1/2-inch conduit. Here's the non-fused 60 amp disconnect we used. Now, since this is 115 volt, I could have just tied these neutral wires together, but I wanted to break them with the disconnect as well as the line wire. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this back together. Let's go ahead and open up these valves. Also, one thing I noticed, it's much easier to land the power wires for the outdoor unit before you land the power cable for the indoor unit, because you can actually get to the screw. See the wires in the way of those bottom screws? Because you land the line over here, the black, and then the white on the neutral. And then of course I got my ground. But you can see this is the conduit fitting that I used. I've got those 2 knockouts. Now, let's use our Allen tool. Let's open up the larger line first. And you can see I took the caps off. And we're gonna go ahead and open up the smaller line next. Now, all I gotta do is install the breaker and we can fire this up. So we're gonna install the breaker, we're gonna install the line hide cover, and then I'll go ahead and turn this unit on and get it working, and then we'll go ahead and start on the ERV installation. Now that we're ready to wire in the breaker, let's take a look at the size. We need a 20 amp single pole breaker because this uses 115 volts. Here's the current breaker that we've got. This is double pole breaker, so this is not what we need. If we turn this breaker on and we check from the white and the black wire, we're gonna have 240 volts. That's not good. That's not what we need. So we need a single pole breaker. We don't need this breaker. All I've got is a 15, and that will work. I'm gonna put it in and we're gonna recheck. Now we've got our 15 amp breaker installed. If we turn it on and we check from the black wire to the white, which I moved to the neutrals and the ground bar, it is 123 now. So we got 120 volts. We have the proper power supply. We didn't go over the max overcurrent protection. Never put a fuse in that exceeds the max overcurrent protection or max fuse. Never use a breaker that's over MOP. Always you can go under, but you can never go over. Mini split installation is complete. Now we're ready to proceed on with the ERV install and connect it to our wall mount air handler. We've got our custom line hide cover that I just finished installing after I sealed around the line sets and the hole up top. Make sure you use some type of sealant to seal around your line set so you don't have air entering. I've got this custom copper line hide cover from Permacover. Go check out permacover.com. Use discount code Taddy5 to get 5% off of a really nice custom cover. Several colors to choose from. Diamond plate. We got some country pine. It looks like wood, or stainless steel or copper. I wanted this for my project because this is my shop. This is where I conduct business. And every time I come out back, I'm gonna be able to see that copper shine. So it's pretty cool. Standing pressure after opening the valves is 215. So we got good standing pressure. I'm gonna go ahead and put the panels back on, and then we're gonna go inside and get that ERV installed. Now that we're ready to install the ERV, we can install it on the right-hand side or the left-hand side of the wall mount air handler. This is what it's gonna look like after we install it. And to be able to install it, we need to use our template. So we're gonna take our template, we're gonna cut a hole in it where our hole is gonna be drilled in the wall for our ducts. Then we're gonna take the 2 holes out where we have our metal bracket that the ERV mounts on. We're gonna use those holes to mark where our screws are gonna go into our bracket. So take your template, then cut off the end where the ERV section is of that template, and then place it beside your wall mount air handler where you want that ERV to be mounted. I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys how I use that template, how I cut the hole, and we're gonna get that hole drilled in the wall. We're gonna take our template and we're gonna remove the section that's for our ERV. So we're gonna tear along the dotted line to remove this piece of this paperboard. Then we're gonna take that piece of paperboard and we're gonna stick it on the wall where we're gonna locate our ERV. Take your razor knife, cut the hole out that you're gonna use. If you cut the bigger hole, you need to have at least a 4-inch hole saw. If you cut the 2 smaller holes, you need to have at least a 2-inch hole saw. Now we're gonna place it on the wall and use our marker to mark our hole. That way we know where to use our hole saw. Using the 4-inch hole saw. Now this piece is gonna be outside and it's gonna fit right in between these ridges. So now I'm gonna use my spotter bit and I'm gonna make sure that I get the hole right here in the middle. We're gonna use our spotter bit. All right, there we go. Now we're gonna use our hole saw. We've got our hole here. Got a beautiful hole, let's go. Now we wanna mount our bracket above our hole. So we're gonna take our template. There's 2 holes. You take those holes out of the cardboard and that's gonna be the holes you use to mount the plate. So to make this easy on where we're gonna put that bracket, we're just gonna take and screw a screw into those 2 holes and then remove it and then boom, put those 2 screws right there in the mounting plate. Easy. Mounting plate is on the wall. Now we can see what it looks like on the bracket. Looks good. Lined up with the wall mount air handler. We're gonna take it back off. I'm gonna use my snips. I'm gonna be routing my wires through this side of the ERV. So we take this off. Then we take out the Phillips screw because we need to route our wires through here. So take this out and then there's our plugs right there. Our wiring harnesses, we have a short wire and we have a long wire. We would use this one if we put our ERV on this side of the wall mount air handler. But we're gonna use the short one because we don't need the long one because we're not gonna be as far from our connection inside our wall mount air handler. So we take this plug here and we connect it like this here, and then here's the other smaller connection like this. And then there's one more wiring harness. This side right here plugs in like this. There we go. Remove that. Then pull this out. And then plug it in like this. Boop. And then this will be routed in to our wall mount air handler. And this blue plug will plug in. I'll show you that. Now we're going to take our little duct connectors here and we're going to slip them over our connections. So there's one and there's two. Like that. Now to route the wires into the wall mount air handler, we're going to take off this little knockout here. It looks like there's a smaller knockout. You may be able to take that out instead of taking this larger one out, but we're not going to be able to see it, so I'm not worried about it. Connect these two little air ducts, and then we're going to connect the wiring. I'm going to show you how to do that. To connect the air ducts to these little takeoffs or these little duct connectors, super simple. You just screw them in, and they get pretty tight. I like this. It's pretty cool. Now, got these connected. Let me show you the wiring. Got the harness I'm going to use to connect between the PCB and the ERV. Now, in the manual, it says that you need to take this little terminal block off. There's a little clip here up top. You just push it down, and then this will actually come out a little ways. And then you can actually pull out the board. Now, I realized that I don't have to pull this board out because there's already a plug ready for us to connect. I will show you though. So, see where it says in air, and it's a blue Molex plug? All right, connected to that is a plug right here. So there's a few plugs, but it's the one with, I'm pretty sure, 6 wires. So we are gonna take and connect this. And then I'm gonna put all this back together. You shouldn't have to get in here. Now we're gonna disconnect this part, and then we're gonna connect this plug here. Once that's connected, we're just gonna route that wire in. Now we're ready to go ahead and mount our ERV and go ahead and plug these 2 plugs in. Now we're gonna take and route these pipes through our hole. And I'm gonna have to go on the other side and pull them through. All right, before I feed the pipes all the way through, I'm gonna make sure that I plug up the harnesses. That way we actually have power to the 2-way ventilation system. Now I'm gonna finish feeding that duct through the holes. Now you can see our 2 pipes. I've already cut the length a little bit. Now we're gonna take the Phillips screw out of this outside piece here, and then take that piece off so that we can actually see where we're gonna route our ducts. And we're gonna take and route those ducts through those holes, and it's gonna mount right here. Now we know we need to cut these pipes. So I'm gonna take them back off. I'm gonna take my knife, and we're just gonna take and cut them. Very easy to cut. You can use a knife, razor knife. See? Super simple, see that? Easy to cut. I'm gonna go ahead and get these cut and then get the outside piece mounted to the outside wall. All right, now that we got our pipes routed through, now we're gonna take and we are gonna mount this to the wall. But before you do that, you may wanna seal up the hole around the pipes. If you have a large hole, you may need to seal with foam. If you have a small hole around your pipes and you just decided to do the 2-inch holes or 2.5-inch holes, then you may use some silicone or some sealant. There's also 4 screw holes here. I'm gonna get those screwed in, and then we're gonna put our cover back on. Now that we've finished the install of the ERV, it's time to activate it. So we're gonna take our wireless remote controller, and if we turn it over, we've got some instructions. And these are for different modes. If you go to the bottom, it says press mode and I feel buttons to turn on fresh air function. So we're gonna hit mode and I feel, right? Wow. Here we go. Lights on. I hear it. Listen. Now, let's do some tests. We've already removed our side cover and we've installed our HEPA filter. So it is running with the HEPA filter. Now we're going to use our anemometer and turn it on. And then we're gonna measure the feet per minute of the fresh air. This is the fresh air coming in from outside. So what we got? 338 feet per minute. Up here, we got 400. So, man, it's moving some air. So this is fresh air coming in. Now, let's go up here and measure where our stale room air is going out. All right, let's see. How much room air are we pulling in? About 200 feet per minute. So we are bringing about 300 to 400 feet per minute in. This is fresh air, and then stale room air about 200 feet per minute. So this thing is moving some air, and when you see the light, that means it's on and it's working. And you can see where that HEPA filter is. That's great. We got the unit in the heating mode. We're checking the supply air temperature, and it's outputting 105 degrees. And it's still going up. So we have got more than a 20-degree split, I'm sure. Now we're gonna put this telescoping probe up here and measure the return air temperature so we know exactly what the temperature split is. All right, so it's stabilized. It's about 82 and it's 105, so we're well over 20-degree split. This unit works down to negative 20 degrees. That is the heating operating range. That is very impressive. How do you know when you're using the fresh air function? Well, if you look on your remote controller, you're gonna see that little house right there, bottom right-hand part of the screen. Hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you liked it. If you did like it, hit the like button, subscribe, and smash that bell, ding, so you know what I'm doing. If you want a mini split that has an ERV, go check out tosatdirect.com. Use discount code TaddyDigest and you'll get 20% off. Right now, I think they have the 1-ton model available, but they also have a pre-order option for the 1-ton or the 18 or the 24K. If you want a really cool line set cover, like the copper line set cover that I use in this video, go check out Permacover. You can get a discount by using discount code TADDY5. You'll get 5% off. Link is in the description for not only tosatdirect.com, but also Permacover. If you learned something in this video, let me know in the comments what you learned. Remember, questions can lead to new content, but if you don't have a question, that's okay. Let me know who you are, let me know where you're from. You've been watching Taddy Digest. I'm Tad, and I'll keep you cool if you let me.